to find out. Are you feeling right now? Hello guys, channel 2, welcome. Hello channel, welcome to my Hello guys, welcome to our channel. Please always wear face wash and use hand sanitizer because corona disease is a very dangerous city, and always keep social distinguish. Romeo, save me! Please like, share and subscribe my video, guys!
Michael Jackson just added another part to his Neverland. Yes, it's called, the church, aka the bar. It serves Jesus juice to all the children that go there. What? This just in. Evil skeletons trying to destroy Domino World. I don't think so. I don't think that's a relevant question.
Perfect.
I don't think so. This is about our lives. This is about American lives. And it should not be partisan. Science should not be partisan.
At some point, the daily drumbeat of depression and terror veers into panic porn. FDR said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
I think the question is,
News sources have to rein it in.
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
We need the news to calm down and treat us like adults.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and thanks for joining me again. This is a real special episode because we've upgraded, some would say, to the better Truckly. A lot of you know Brian because he's got an unpalatable taste buds for spicy food, but now we've got the intellect of the Truckleys, and I'd like to introduce Brian's brother, Kevin Truckly. Thank you for joining me, man. How you doing, man?
First off, Brian is my brother,
Right.
and makes sense. Brian's only known for spicy food, so.
Well, he just likes to flex, and I think that's just the only thing he's got a leg up on everybody, since he looks like he's right out of Auschwitz. All right, let's get to the matter at hand. It came out literally like an hour ago, and this is going to probably come out on Friday. We're filming Wednesday, so that means that it's not going to be news to you, but it's news for us, so we can react to it. But it's pretty great that Ohio State was announced that they are going to, the Big Ten is going to nix their rule for a 6-game requirement to go to the Big Ten championship, and they're going to allow Ohio State to play, which they owed us. What are your thoughts, Kev?
Well, first off, we just have to address that Team Up North are cowards. Some say it's COVID related. Some say, they don't want to get embarrassed. Either way, they're health concerns, basically. I would be concerned if they came down here for, the mental health of all their players, for the embarrassment they would go through. And honestly, I think that would be the final nail in the coffin for this dying program. Such a historic, and I hate them more than anything, but they're a great program, and it's a shame that, how they've handled this entire situation. It's upsetting because I think that they tried to take advantage of the COVID situation.
Oh, 100%.
And try and stick one to us.
100%.
And
to think otherwise would be ignorant. 100%.
Yeah, and if anything, it just shows their colors. They're not competitive.
Which is
they're
the ugliest
cowards.
Colors ever. Let's be real.
And honestly, and you know what? Jim Harbaugh, strip him a football guy. Okay, he ain't no football guy anymore. Okay, you know what? I don't care how many players you have out. We had more players out at Ohio State during the Michigan State game than what the Team Up North would have out this week. So and we didn't even have our head coach. Don't give me this. There's concerns spreading throughout the program. Everyone else got their stuff handled, and it's a shame because it's my favorite holiday of the year. We're going to go – I can't wait. We're going to probably be going on a decade. That's a generation of kids being born into Team Up North families that are just complete losers, and I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world. Hold on. Sorry.
Well, real quick, while you look it up, to lay it out there, Michigan is no
That's my
longer.
background. That kid's a bum. He's a bum.
What?
He's a
Wait,
loser.
but
Another
let's
year.
articulate why that's your background. So this week we were supposed to play. Ohio State was supposed to play Michigan, and Michigan, and leading into this week, Kevin, we were sitting there, and we even said you. Like you and I agreed, you'd be stupid enough to pretend that they weren't going to sit out this week. Going into this week, what reason would they have to play us besides the money? There's a ton of money in this game, but all you're going to do is embarrass us. And, dude, the funny thing is, it is without a doubt the biggest rivalry in sports, not just football, in sports. You could be watching the Yankees versus the Red Sox, and the announcer is going to bring up, when you bring up biggest rivalries, Michigan, Ohio State's in that conversation. It's not even the same sport. So this is the biggest rivalry ever, which means they hate us just as much as we hate them. So to pretend when you sit back and you're going to get your ass kicked, and if money isn't a concern, why would you play when you know you could kick the team you hate more than anything straight in the balls? We wouldn't get to go to the playoffs, and that's what made today such an important move by the Big Ten.
Well, the thing, I'm honestly shocked that they're not playing, and that's why I'm just disappointed, because I know that we care more about the rivalry than they do. We simply do. We treat it. This is the only game that matters. If you're a Buckeye fan, if you're an Ohio State fan or you're a Buckeye, and you don't think this is the only game that matters, don't put on the scarlet and gray. Don't represent Ohio State, because this is the only game that matters. People lose their jobs for not being able to win this game. John Cooper, perfect example. And Brady Hoke, perfect example. Jim Harbaugh, eventually, probably this year. He deserves it. And honestly, it's disrespectful to the entire tradition of this rivalry and the greatness of this rivalry. Like you just said, there's no thing like it in sports. It's one of the most, the first game since 1917, I think, that isn't being played between these two teams. I mean, this is World War I. Wow. And it's disrespectful to the alumni. It's disrespectful to the fans of the team up north, and of course to Ohio State. But it's just a disrespect to your program, and it's incredibly upsetting. And I feel bad for them up there. I do, because they deserve better.
Well, even the worst part is, unfortunately, this move is very parallel to how their season has gone, and their entire season has been an embarrassment. What stinks is you're watching, and it's the polarization of the internet, hip-hop, just the attitudes of social norms or social, emotions. But the SEC is getting an unnecessary wave. They are a crappy division, and I love beating them, but they're also snowballing at a rate, and they're sucking the Big Ten dry. So what stinks is we used to be a division that's so powerful that every arm of it was a threat to all the other divisions and everyone else, to ourselves. It was something big to beat any Big Ten team. And because Clemson, Alabama, even something like LSU, they're becoming such a cool, internet meme team that you're watching a polarization of, you're either trying to be a front runner in the SEC or you go to Ohio State. And now it screws us, because we look around the room and all the people we're left with, all these other teams in our division, aren't anything to scoff at anymore. At the end of the day, there's still some great teams, but I feel like we're heading in a dangerous direction. What do you think?
Well, first off, I will say Clemson is an internet meme. I can't talk shit about Clemson, but I will talk shit and say that they can't call themselves elite. They try and put themselves in the same category as Ohio State and Alabama. Absolutely not. Get that out of here. Okay? Do it more than 5 years and tell me you're elite. Yeah, you pass the decade mark of being a top program year in, year out, national title contender, then I'll call you elite. But for them to even put themselves in the same sentence as Ohio State and Alabama is disrespectful. So let's get that right. But I agree. The Big Ten's been a catastrophe this year. It's been an absolute catastrophe. But, I mean, I think Penn State over recent years has represented us well, which is crazy to say that Penn State is a model of the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And I think Indiana, I love seeing what's happened with them, is that I think great coaches have rose to the top this season, as they should. Like Texas A&M is a perfect example. Jimbo Fisher, the most overlooked coach in college football and underappreciated. And, he's got that team ready to go. I think they'd be a great test for Ohio State coming up. But I agree. It's dangerous for the Big Ten and to have it's Big Ten, the East Division, to have a team as historic, the all-time winningest team of all time, to suck. It's not.
Right.
They're not just bad; they suck. They almost lost to Rutgers.
Exactly my point. And so, Michigan State was terrible. And so, again, Wisconsin isn't an embarrassment yet, but I still think something like Wisconsin, even Nebraska, who was going to sneak into the Big Ten championship in front of us, even though we beat them. You've got these teams that look like a shell of the program they used to be. And the only thing I can really chalk it up to is when you are maybe an inner city, high school kid, or even just some high school kid who's trying to make a name for himself moving forward to possibly build a career into the NFL. I think you're faced with the decision of go to Ohio State. If you're not going to Ohio State, try to get into an SEC team, which never used to be the case, and I blame the internet. I really do think some of these teams are struggling to get their hands on some prime suspects that they normally would have before this recent era of thinking Clemson with the pretty boy with long hair who looks like a tranny chick is better than he really is.
Well, I think that I'll defend. I'm a Wisconsin defender. I personally, Ohio State's never out of it because we're the best.
I love playing them. They definitely give us a fight.
But the thing is, the thing that makes Wisconsin so great is that they know their identity, and they know what type of program they are. They know exactly what type of player they're going to get, and they know exactly what type of football they're going to play. Nebraska, they stink right now, but they understand what type of program they are. Why else do you see? Do you see Nebraska hanging on to the 90s? Do you see Miami holding on to the 90s and early 2000s? No. Do you see the team up north doing it? Absolutely. Well, Notre Dame. We'll use Notre Dame too. Notre Dame's still calling championships in 1934 or whenever they won.
Right.
It's sad that the team up north can't come to terms with the position they're in right now. And they're never going to be able to fix this absolute dumpster fire of a football program if they don't just take a hard look in the mirror and understand that we're not what we used to be. We're not Ohio State, obviously, because, we're the best. But no, and I agree. There's nothing attractive about the Big Ten if you like what you're saying. If a kid coming out of let's say in Atlanta, Georgia,
bingo,
great.
Why would you come to Ohio? Why would you go to Michigan?
Yeah. Why would you? Yeah.
Why would you go to some ugly, terrible weather state? Here's the biggest thing: is Michigan needs to milk the fact that they have an incredible education program. Why would you go to Michigan? Why would you go to Ohio State? Why would you go to Nebraska? Because these are still great programs. You're going to get to go to school for free. But irrefutably, SEC is still offering great academic programs. They're in better. You cannot take away being in Louisiana, being in Alabama. These are prettier weather countries, or states. You get to enjoy the weather and party more, but also, dude, it kills me to lean back on this, but it feels like a meme, which means it's just misguided, and people think they're better than they are because people think they're better than they are, and we're just bandwagon riders. If the attitudes they're great, then we start thinking they're great. And I got a question for you. I want to wrap this up. Okay. I know there's some people that are like, all right, I'm not in on him for that. We brought Kevin in to really get into the weeds of things. So wrapping up the college topic or football topic, how do you we're now allowed to go to the Big Ten. How do you see that panning out for us? That means a win puts us at number 4. We're going to play we're for sure going into the playoffs, and I think we might actually show up and be the Ohio State we used to be when we were growing up.
Well, I mean, I think we're going to go to the playoff regardless. I mean, we're going to kick the shit out of Northwestern. I mean, it's signed, sealed. Well, I mean, whatever you want to say, it's inevitable, and we will be in the playoff. And it's funny, actually, me and my dad were talking about this earlier today. I think the only thing that can throw a wrench in all this is if Florida somehow beats Alabama, and then I think Clemson's going to beat Notre Dame. But if that's the case, I still believe that they will put a undefeated Big Ten champion, which is going to be Ohio State. I think they will put them over Notre Dame, because you're like, you know what, Notre Dame, they went double OT against a freshman quarterback, and half of Clemson's defense was out, and you went to double OT with that team. I mean, give me a break, okay? I mean, Notre Dame's looked good. I'd say right now at this point in time, they're a top 4 team, but I see there's no way that we don't get in the college football playoff, because we're Ohio State too, and we bring in the most money, and money talks.
Right.
Go
No,
Bucks.
100%. So I completely concur. I see it panning out the same way, and hopefully all goes to a plan, but it seems to never be the case with us. So like you said, some monkey wrench is probably around the corner, but I think we'll be able to handle it. Okay. So moving on. So, Kevin, I don't know if you've heard, but on the Rethink Tank website, we have started kind of this new social media alternative where you can become a member, create your own free account, and you personalize it with your own profile and your own cover photo, the whole 9 yards. Create your own profile. And then we have the NeuroGym, which is kind of like a forum where we can just have open, kind of like a Reddit. And one of the general discussion topics that we threw out there was just a kind of dump of all of the logical flaws in corona prevention policies. And so where you have things like this, where outdoor dining is gradually becoming indoor dining when we can't eat inside in New York, but it's getting cold out here, folks. So we start building an essentially outdoor building. So we have major contradicting flaws in these policies. I kind of want to just go through some that and kind of pick apart. That the main theme is do as I say, not as I do.
Hi, Dr. Paul with another episode. The topic for today is do as I say, not as I do. Really, you want your child to be healthy, right? If you're living by do as I say, not as I do, it won't work, okay?
Right? You've got people that are like governors. Here, let's start with this. I'm sure you've seen, boom, Gavin Newsom. Here we go. Yeah. One of the biggest scolds of the coronavirus pandemic, Newsom attended a birthday party for a friend at this 5-star restaurant, this French restaurant, and he was only caught because someone took a picture of Newsom at his table. And can we just acknowledge how much of a spineless, just totally
hypocrite?
Oh yeah, but did you see his apology? When he came out and apologized, it was one of those like
On the minimized mixing, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge something just before we go into the Q&A. And that is very soberly acknowledge that a few weeks ago, I was asked to go to a friend's 50th birthday. My wife and I, a friend that I've known for almost 20 years and a friend that had, put a lot of time and energy into his 50th birthday. It was in Napa, which was in the orange status, relatively loose compared to some other counties. It was to be an outdoor restaurant, and we started the program started at 4 o'clock. It was one of those early reservations. I got there a little bit late at 4:30, and as soon as I sat down at the larger table, I realized it was a little larger group than I had anticipated, and I made a bad mistake. Instead of sitting down, I should have stood up and walked back, got in my car, and drove back to my house. Instead, I chose to sit there with my wife and a number of other couples that were outside the household. And you can quibble about the guidelines, et cetera, but the spirit of what I'm preaching all the time was contradicted, and I got to own that. And so I want to apologize to you because I need to preach and practice, not just preach and not practice. And I've done my best to do that. We're all human. We all fall short sometimes. We've been out, and I think for 3 times since, in fact, I know it's been 3 times because I remember all of those dinners very, very vividly since February, just 3 times, twice with my wife, by myself, outdoors, and then this one occasion with a larger group. And there were just a few extra people there than the spirit of what I am promoting. And so if we're going to minimize mixing, you got to own up to that. So I just want folks to know that. Paid for our dinner, and we had an early dinner, but didn't matter.
Come on. Don't even, but they're lying around every turn. Look at Nancy Pelosi. What are your thoughts? What do you see in this
I think
baloney?
it's a tremendous amount of hypocrisy, and it's dangerous. It's setting, it's a direction that our country is headed based on the current political ideologies of, I think, people around our age, of this, let's have the government decide what to do with other people's business. And everything's controlled by the government. And everything is, the government's going to tell you, where to shit and where to eat and, what time you got to go home. And people are starting to see how horrible it is. So that's just a little bit on that. But people like Nancy Pelosi, and I'll start with Newsom. The guy's a hypocrite. There's nothing short of, you can't call him anything else besides what you said, spineless, and that's being nice. And he's just a flat out hypocrite because, you're messing with people's lives. You're not just, I understand you want to keep people safe. That's it's encouraged. But at the same time, you can't sit there and say, oh, I'm sorry for, you broke your own rule. You broke your own rule that even, like, it's human nature to break it because it's just so stupid.
Right.
It just makes absolutely no sense. And you sitting there and apologizing solves nothing.
100%.
Give us an actual process that you want us to go through to make sure that we can combat, COVID, but don't go out and then break your own rule because you lose any sorts of credibility. And it just shows that you're gutless. You're not a leader. You're just going with whatever social media tells you, or
right.
whatever the left. Well, yeah, more of what the left, I'll say, what they want you to believe. And with Pelosi, she's a coward. I hate her more than anybody on planet Earth.
Right.
I think she is one of the most corrupt individuals maybe in American history. For her to sit there for months on end to say, they passed a stimulus bill, a second stimulus bill in May, in mid-May. And, then throughout this entire electoral process, through the summer and then the fall, you have her just putting a wall up on actually trying to get a stimulus bill passed through. Now, it's also on the Republicans, absolutely still on the Republicans.
How though? Dude, today I saw circling literally today something along the lines of how the GOP is to blame for not getting a stimulus package or something. Or,
the thing,
and dude, at the end of the day, Nancy Pelosi stopped you from getting a second $1,500 check 6 times in 1 week. While she's still getting her $200,000 for being Speaker of the House, folks, she stopped your $1,500 check. And the biggest shame here, Kevin, is people who are but from calling for more welfare money to ignoring where our tax dollars are going. These are the type of people who unfortunately are not losing half a check every payday. That's the problem, is we are having a political discussion with some people who lose half of what they product. They lose half of their work, and there's half of people taking it. That's the political discussion. But even aside from all that, Kevin, what's weird is you go back to like March, and it was really hard to get someone like me, 27, to get on the bandwagon of throw people in their cages in their home and throw their muzzles on their face. And because you know what? I'm not my grandma who's sick and old in a nursing home. I'm a 27-year-old kid who literally didn't know one person who was sick of the coronavirus. I didn't know anybody who knew anybody who was sick of the coronavirus. So come March, come April, come May, it's hard to get me on board. Now it's June, baby. I just graduated law school and I want to enjoy my summer. So now I can't go to baseball. Now, but I'm the bad guy. You don't care about people. You don't care about people. Well, here's the fact of the matter, Kevin. Irrefutably, Corona's here. This second wave, which was supposed to be coming in June, July, and August, is finally here. And we all knew it was coming. Clearly because of the weather, our immune systems are down. It is colder. And I'm sorry, man. I got it. My mom's like, you don't need to spread that everywhere. It's like, why? I got a sickness. I got the corona over Thanksgiving. And it was its own, it sucked for 3 days. My chest hurt. It was hard to kind of like exert energy. But then after 3 days, still couldn't taste food. That was the worst part. It was crazy miserable just not being able to taste food. You keep hearing that. You don't think it's a problem until you can't taste your food. It's crazy. You got an appetite. Regardless, all I'm saying is it's survivable. I had worse colds. Now, I just think that might be because I'm lucky. I'm not some ignorant person who's going to sit here and go, it ain't that bad. No, for me, it wasn't that bad. I survived it. I had worse. But I think we need to acknowledge what it is. If we had CNN and MSNBC telling you how many times a 7-year-old child died in a car accident, you wouldn't get behind the wheel. So what it does to the psyche, seeing a death count ticker on the screen, how do you know that? How are you getting that? How are you getting immediate? They're medical records. That shit's private. So all of this is a psyop to make us all hyper afraid. And so you got some people who are waking up and are, dude, here's a picture, boom. And I know I sent it to you. Look at how people are literally cheering and excited to look like sheep. They're literally corralling us into cages. But we're just happy that we get to go see our favorite comedian or whatever it may be. The restrictions are bullshit. Man, you put up a plastic shield as if that does anything, and then the person hands you the credit card. The cashier hands you the credit card by leaning around the freaking plastic, and you touched my credit card. Nobody's talking about money, what the money is again. So again, dude, there's holes everywhere, and I think if we all woke up to it, had a conversation about it, we'd realize that it's all just trying to make us hyper scared about something we're inevitably going to have to learn to live with, whether that's with a vaccine or not. The worst part is you watch a video of Rudy Giuliani, you wipe his face, wipe everything, and then it seems almost intentional because he immediately puts it on his lap, and then immediately the hand that he slaps his thigh with, he wipes the lady next to him. It's like, how is that not intentional?
Holy, that was diabolical.
So
he's a slime ball, like I said. He's like a 98 Civic. I mean, he leaks oil. He's leaking hair dye. The dude's a clown. He's a grease ball.
Here comes a grease ball.
Hey, Luigi, bring your kids a free pizza. Why you have to make it a fun, huh?
He is. That's why Trump hired him. That's his favorite.
Absolutely. Well, I'll say this about the lockdown in March, and I think we're getting close to another lockdown similar to that, and I happen to agree with what happened in March, and I would support another lockdown if to get it under control. The reason why we had the lockdown in March is because we're over capacity in hospitals, because this is a new thing. We don't know what to do. You just kind of got to sit back and be like, okay, let's calm down, let's collect ourselves, and we'll figure out how to move forward. We needed that lockdown in March. We had to, or else we would have had people dying in the hallways of hospitals. People don't deserve to die that way. They don't. And it's
Wait,
and it, and
but
it's
hold on. Let's not act like that's that's the key. And I saw an argument on the internet, which I will give credence to. It makes a good point. When we say 1% dies, that is ignoring the fact that that doesn't mean 1% dies and 99% is perfect. That means that 99% survives, but also a significant portion of those people are having permanent health damage or still severely struggling with it, whatever the case may be. But even acknowledging that, we do need to acknowledge we are in a tribe of 350 million people. And Kevin, while that is a shame, and people like my sister are going to dedicate, 12 hours of her day to be at a hospital to tend to them as best we can. I mean, what else you want us to do? You have people like my friend Mike, who he was a trainer for the NFL. He trained Aaron Rodgers. Just an anecdotal story, a cool story. He trained Aaron Rodgers and he trained Drew Brees. And he said it's so cool that you could see people who have just as great, like such equal legendary greatness, but train, and their work ethic is so completely different. And someone like Drew Brees is like, don't talk. It's very serious, very like, let's go. It's all work, no play. And Aaron Rodgers is like, and he kicks back and laughs. But aside from that, this guy, Mike, he owns his own gym now. He does his own personal training. And he was on the news with a bunch of other gyms in Northeast Ohio because Daddy DeWine is coming out saying he's going to close it all. And as you alluded to as well, that there probably is another lockdown on the horizon. And you've got people like this, Kevin, who go, listen, I understand what all of your policy arguments, the necessity and whatever. But now I need you to see another perspective where you've got an individual who owns a business who you're going to find – I will lose $10,000 a day. This is what he said on the news. I'll lose $10,000 a day, whereas I can violate your order and pay $1,500 for your violation. So there's like 30 gyms who are in a class action lawsuit in Northeast Ohio against the state, and they're all agreeing that they're going to stay open even if they order them to stay closed. And I'm sorry, man, I support that. I do. Because my grandma isn't going to work out with Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, I don't want businesses to close, but I'm saying that if we get to a point to where our hospitals are overflowing and they are at or over capacity, then I support we need to lock down because, like I said, no one deserves to die in a hallway. No one deserves to have a lack of access to, if you are in the hospital, you should be able to get that treatment. Like you shouldn't have to suffer because the hospital is not equipped to deal with this amount of people. That's not fair, and that's not right to anybody. Now, I agree. We should not like the curfew is the dumbest thing on the planet. Like that makes no sense to me because Guess what? COVID does. I mean, it's not a gremlin. Okay, COVID's not a gremlin. It doesn't get worse at midnight. Okay, no one can say it does, and it's to me that's just lunacy.
Right.
But also, like the plexiglass thing is
but that's
equally
everywhere,
stupid.
Kevin. Go to a restaurant.
It's everywhere, and it is
everywhere. I've not seen a airtight policy.
I know, and I think, and I don't like it. I don't like wearing a mask. I don't think that it necessarily.
It doesn't kill me. It is what it is.
No, I mean it is what it is. I do it because it makes other people more comfortable. That's fine, but also at the same time, like I don't think you should be shutting down restaurants. You should not be fining gyms. Like
that's the key. That's the important thing.
Yeah, and you can't sit like it's everyone's choice to go out or not. It's if you guess what? If you're old, stay inside. Unfortunately, that's just reality we live in. But also, I think it's up to people our age to still be mindful of the people that we are eventually going to surround ourselves with. You and I, we go out, we're going to be fine. And you know what? We could pass it to someone along our age. They're going to most likely going to be fine. I mean, a very rare occurrence are they not. But also, you got to be mindful of who you're surrounding yourself that's not our age. And why else are you starting to see like these younger, more startup companies? They're going back to work. But you're seeing older companies, the financial institutions, the law firms, more or less, or like accounting firms that have older employees most of the time, they're still going remote. It's because you don't want to expose this the generation above us, generation two above us, to COVID more than what they probably are already exposed. So I'm not for shutting down gyms. I'm not for shutting down restaurants. I'm not for shutting down churches or any of that stuff. But I will support a shutdown whenever it
Wait, so
comes
what's the
to our
difference?
hospitals
I
being at.
don't support shutting down gyms or shutting down businesses, but I support a shutdown. So what is the latter shutdown?
I support a shutdown when it comes to our hospitals are over capacity.
Okay, so to that point, that's the point I really want to acknowledge. So I completely agree with you that we don't want someone dying in the halls, and that's not right, and no one deserves that. But I think, Kevin, we truly need to look at the track record of what's been. This is no long. We are at some point going to reach being locked down for a year. For a year. This has no longer been a couple of months. This has not been, what did they say, 100 days? No. We are on almost a year. We are getting on, this is 9 months, long time. And now we got to look at the track record of what we've had. So, Kevin, the biggest problem is when we had the first lockdown, what did we have? We had hospitals saying people who died in a car crash died of COVID. What was the motive? What was the provocateur that got them to do that? It's because they're going out of business, man. We expected a huge flood like that. We were told that people were dropping dead in the hallways. What's crazy is someplace like China's got to have incredible numbers, and they're just not telling us, because it's amazing that they had numbers way higher than all of us. They had people, like you said, but quite literally dropping dead in the streets. They're carrying them away, just tossing them. Who knows? And now they've got it to zero. Oh, come on. But back to your point, we don't want people dropping in the hospitals. At the end of the day, though, the problem is we have hospitals going out of business right now because they've been so undersupplied. Now, I want to refute myself that during this past month, they are overrun. I will not try to refute that at all. I will say there is a legitimate spike right now trying to get in order to get a swab and work with the emergency. Dude, there was one day it was really bad before I knew I had it, and we went to the emergency room. It was crazy there. So I'm with you. We are at a point where it can get bad, but we need to acknowledge the last time we had a lockdown, all the hospitals went out of business because we suspected something worse than what came. And that caused doctors to say it was a COVID death when it was a car crash or something totally irrelevant. So I agree with you, but we also need to acknowledge it's a slippery slope when we go. And, dude, again, I agree with you that 27-year-olds or, whatever, 25-year-olds, we should all be allowed to go whatever. But also, what about that grandma? Isn't it crazy that it could have been it's probably one of, if not the last Thanksgiving my grandmother had. And she spent her childhood, she's not even Jewish, hiding from the Nazis in Greece in carved out trees for a year and a half. And now she has, dead serious.
She's a gypsy?
No, she's just Greek. She's just in the way. The Nazis were coming through and killing all the children in Southern Europe. When they came through Italy, the Italians put their between their legs and took it, and they became a part of the Nazi regime, and they invaded Greece, and they were just killing children. My point is, here's some lady who's already had her tough times, and I want to believe effing with Nazis is way harder than this coronavirus. But regardless, now we got to look at her and say, you got to be in prison. Now, I think it's for my grandmother's best that she stays. And, when they meet with us, she's inside, we're outside, we're talking through a window. But we can't take away from that's like jail. So it's this dichotomy of it's your last years. Who am I to say how you want to spend it? If you want to go out in a fiery glory, going to dive bar and throwing them back with the boys, have at it. Who am I to say otherwise? But that's the beauty of America. So I think you raise a great point. It's when it starts affecting the public in a dangerous manner. If it's just spreading like a rapid fire, then I guess maybe we need to do something. But also, we've been doing something for over a year. So what do? We didn't stop the world when the flu or the swine flu or the Spanish flu or the bird flu, mad cow disease, I don't know.
Eternal flu. Well, I mean, I agree. I mean, don't tell me how to wipe my ass, and that's the beauty of America, and that's why this is the greatest country on the planet, is that you don't tell me what to do. But when it does, like you said, like what I said, and I think you kind of put it a little more eloquently, when it comes to public health concern,
Oh.
then that's when the lockdown is necessary, not for months on end. Shit.
Dude, you
Not
may have struck gold there. That's illuminating.
Hey,
Your
yeah,
points are illuminating.
that's what I do. Turn the lights on. But it's when it comes to a public health concern, that's when I think it's necessary to take these I would say 2 weeks. Just be like, let's brace for impact, which just kind of settle in. But yeah, I'm not one to tell your grandma where to go and what to do. That's why I'm saying we should not be shutting down bars. We should not be shutting down gyms. We should not be shutting down restaurants, because guess what? It's my right to go wherever I choose and wherever I please. And it's not for the government to tell me when I should go eat, when I should go home. It's like we're minors and the government is our parents. That's when a curfew is necessary. If you're a minor, whatever, you choose how to run your house. But at the same time, like, we're all contributing members of society, and it's not up to you to tell me where I should go, what I should do, and how I should approach this thing. Now, public health, yes. That's when I think the government should step in a little bit. I believe it should be at the state level. Big proponent of states controlling everything.
I agree.
But because that's where real action takes place. But it's I'm not going to lead us into another.
Represent, dude. If you look at the United States, we are 50 countries in one country. We are all so different. That's why we need to run ourselves differently. That's why we have the Electoral College. People hate it because at the end of the day, I don't need somebody in California telling me how to live my life here in Ohio, because we're living two different lives. And that's what the forefathers saw coming. But I think you really raised a great point. I didn't send you this clip ahead of time, so just to give you a heads up, dude, you reminding me of it. It's a great clip of this bar owner. The location is on the screen because I can't remember exactly where it's at. But this lady she was running her own bar, and the state permanently closed the bar down for COVID. It was California. What am I thinking? She's in California.
Shock.
She shut her bar down. She films a video of her walking outside her bar, and literally outside her bar is the tents for a movie. And they have it's the cafeteria, like the eating plaza, and it's identical to her bar patio with the awning and everything. And and she's like, "What's the difference?" Going to it now.
So this is my place, the Pineapple Hill Grill and Saloon. If you go to my page, you can see all the work I did for outdoor dining, for tables being 7 feet apart. And I come in today because I'm organizing a protest, and I came in to get stuff for that. And I walk into my parking lot, and obviously Mayor Garcetti has approved this. Has approved this being set up for a movie company. I'm losing everything. Everything I own is being taken away from me. And they set up a movie company right next to my outdoor patio, which is right over here. And people wonder why I'm protesting and why I have had enough. They have not given us money, and they have shut us down. We cannot survive. My staff cannot survive. Look at this. Tell me that this is dangerous, but right next to me, as a slap in my face, that's safe. This is safe. 50 feet away. This is dangerous.
But
Well,
what's the difference?
I mean, there is absolutely no difference. And actually, the difference is one generates money for the state, one doesn't. People go to California because of Hollywood. People live in California because of the entertainment industry, and who is probably their largest contributors in taxpayers. There are people who are, the ultra wealthy, um, people in Hollywood, athletes, whatever. But it's because they know that that's the only real interest in going to Hollywood. I mean, going to California right now is those are the only people that are actually like advocating to stay, because there's no reason to stay in California. I think California is the best state in America. I do. I think you can get everything in California that you can get any other point in the country. I mean, you can get sunny weather year.
I guess Northern California.
Northern California, yeah, Tahoe, all that. Yeah, absolutely, you can get snow. I mean, it's the most complete state. It has the best golf. It's got the best weather, I personally think.
It does.
But the way it's run is horrible. And the people there are horrible. And I have no problem telling you that the people in California, they suck.
I'm with you.
Why?
There.
Because they try and create this utopian society that you can't, it's so hard to put into words on. They're just delusional in what they want to accomplish and what they expect everyone else should do. Whenever we all know people of Hollywood, they are the most disconnected people on planet Earth. Sorry, I guess what? Meryl Streep, don't give me a lecture on what struggling is, okay? Yeah, I'm sure you had your grind when you're, a kid or whatever, whenever she got in. God knows how old she is. But,
I can't stand her anymore.
Don't give me a lecture of what's happening in America right now, because none of it affects you. And the reason there is no difference between that lady and the setup. But the big difference is that she is the one who probably employs people. The people who are setting up this bar, they're not the ones going to struggle if it's not set up there. The woman who can't set up her own bar outside, which is her right to do, she's going to struggle if that thing's not set up. That's do or die for her. It's not do or die for everyone to get, Chick-fil-A catered at, the film crew, for the film crew. You know what? It's hypocritical, it's dangerous, and it's not right, and it's not for the interest of the public. And that's, to me, despicable.
No, I
went every which direction there, but it's bullshit.
No, it completely is. Now, we kind of touched upon the effect it has on the economy, the effect it has on real people's lives, and how kind of unattached from that or detached from that our politicians are. But I'd like to get your opinion. I know you've seen this clip, but I want to cut to our friend Liam, who kind of is introducing himself for his first day of remote kindergarten over Zoom.
Hello, I am Liam King Cecil. I'm 5 years old. See on my fingers, and I'm excited for my first day at school.
But Kevin, this kid's adorable, and the energy he gives you, it brightens your day. But at the end of the day, it breaks my heart seeing a kid like this whose first day of school, at the most impactful point in his life where socialization is necessary, he's getting giddy to sit in his living room in front of a computer. And I'm sure that was fun, but I'm sure that energy didn't last for the entire day. So we talk about the economics and all this other stuff, but I think there's an undertone, whether it's purposeful by these evil elites or not. I think it's honestly going to have the worst effect on our youth. They are not going to do this. Is really going to affect their socialization and their development. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think what you just said, their socialization and their development, I think, I'm sorry, but kindergarten, I mean, I may lose a couple fans here, but I'm sorry, kindergarten, it's coloring and putting blocks on one another. It's nothing. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's so easy. I mean, like being a kindergarten teacher, I mean, I think kindergarten teachers are there more as a positive support system than they are actual teacher. And that's why that's why, kindergarten teachers are some of the greatest people of all time is because they're so loving and they're so caring and they're nurturing. We need those people, but they're also teaching them lessons, like life lessons on how to share, how to be nice,
Boom.
how not to name call. But,
It's the
guess what?
socialization.
The socialization is the most important part of why these kids, I think, especially like pre-K, kindergarten, and I'd say probably up to like first, second grade, whatever. Like whatever you're learning on TV too. Okay, I mean, little Einsteins, whatever. Just listen to some Mozart, and you're good. That's kindergarten to second grade, basically.
Pretty
And you
much.
read a couple picture books, and you learn how to spell. Easy thing, easy stuff. But it's the how to just be a decent human being. You learn that the most, I think, at that early age, and you learn right from wrong. In some, I mean, I'll say like inner city kids. Um, I want to know the quality of kindergarten teacher and inner city kids. I guarantee you, if we had a better elementary, pre-K, kindergarten, whatever you want to call it, I think if we paid a lot more attention to those kids at that early of an age, we wouldn't have such a big problem in certain parts of the country because that's where it starts. It starts at school and also starts at home. But I can't tell you how many people are impacted by their teachers, and because that's where you spend most of your day. It's like I'm most impacted by, my work. Because that's where I spend, 8, 9, 10 hours of the day. Um, it's the same thing at school. It's the people you surround yourself with, the people that you're around. It's a culture, and if you're denying these kids of that, then it solves nothing.
Oh, dude, and not to interject, but real quick to address the Corona thing and the development. We have a 9-year-old girl that lives in our neighborhood, and she's going to school, half in person, half on the computer. And when she's in person, they still have completely eliminated music, art, and gym, which is literally the entire reason a 9-year-old's going to grade school. So they're even losing probably the most effective part of their development. But aside from that, I think you raise an even more important conversation. I'd love to go down that road a little bit, talking about inner city schools and kind of the rough hurdles that they face. I I have this passion since high school. I've had this passionate support for merit pay where I feel like if not their entire salary, then at least bonuses should be based on the productivity. Bonuses for teachers should be based on the productivity of their students to motivate them to take their job more serious. You have in the academic system or the teaching system tenure, which is something that is completely detrimental to the growth and motivation of a teacher. And you see it. Going to a public school, I suffered it. And at the end of the day, I always felt merit pay was something that could help. Through all my research, being on the debate team and stuff, I learned that inner city schools do have good teachers. Now, I will say teachers themselves do want to go teach at a Brecksville, where I was, a blue ribbon suburb, more than they want to teach in Cleveland. But also there is a lot of financial incentive to go teach at those schools. So it may not be the all-time best teachers that go there, but young, motivated, more like, our age are the people that go there. And so that means they have a lot of motivation, still haven't beaten out of them. I agree with you that it starts at school, but then you followed it up with the cliche, and it's cliche for a reason. It starts at home, man. And so many of those teachers look at there are kids in those inner city schools that they do make a connection with. And they do, not all of them. And they try to get more. We all wish they could connect with more, but at the end of the day, they connect. And the ones that they don't connect with, I don't want to say it's because they defaulted or failed in some way. Working in the courthouse, I talked about with one of my coworkers. The hardest part about my job is realizing that you want to help people more than they want to help themselves. And there's some people, and how do they get there? Their parents didn't care about them. And so a lot of it starts at home. When you got a drunk or a crackhead that's beating you and doesn't give you, neglects you. When we talk about socialization being so important of your development, and I'm sitting at home at 7:00 having dinner with my mom and my dad, and you're sitting at home hiding from your dad because he's about to come home from the bar and might beat your ass. We're living in two different worlds, and Miss Johnson's gonna try her damnedest, but we're both going to digest Miss Johnson and her efforts and her productivity completely different. So I agree with you, but I think Steven Crowder gets hung for it. I mean, what doesn't the poor guy get hung for? But I think his strongest point has forever been, my privilege is not my skin tone. My privilege is my two-parent household. And at the end of the day, studies have shown that that's the most effective and important part of any person's development. So I agree with your point. You make some great points, but I just wanted to hammer home that I think it's a lot more to do with inner city households.
It's 100% culture, and there's no you can't be refuted because the merit pay sounds great on paper, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the parent and it comes down to the kid, and the kid's always going to follow what the parent tells them. And it's sad that that's the reality that a lot of kids face, and it's not fair to those kids. And we need to figure out a way how to help these kids that are, the great thing about America is you can get yourself out of a shitty situation, but you can't fault those that are born in a shitty situation. And what are we doing to help encourage these kids get out of a horrible, horrible situation? And I think that comes with the quality of education they have. And I think that a lot of inner city teachers are underappreciated, and they're probably frustrated because they're not getting the resources that they may necessarily need or deserve. But it all starts at home, and it's sad. Have you ever seen The Wire?
No, I haven't, but I know it's a great show.
I'll
put it in context for us.
So The Wire, basically, it's the greatest show of all time. I'll go to the grave on that. Basically, it just shows like gang activity, drug activity of Baltimore. And each like different season has a theme. Like the first one I would say is drug and family, and how you are raised in this environment. And I'd say the second season is around, it kind of leads into corruption, but also deals with human trafficking and drug trafficking, and how many different layers this stuff has, and different silos of different gangs and how things flow and all that. And all this is revolved around law enforcement too, and the relationship that law enforcement has with, these gangs and these people. The third one is, it leans more towards political corruption and how some dirty money has influence on, our law enforcement, our politicians, things like that. The fourth season, I will go to my grave, and it cannot be debated for me, is the greatest season of television of all time. It's incredible. It's about children and gangs, and how their schooling and their at-home life affects where they go. It deals a lot less with law enforcement than the other seasons of The Wire, and it focuses on, I think it's these five kids, and just the choices they face, and the people, like one of them has a little brother he has to take care of because of situations at home. One of them is his cousin is one of the I guess you call kingpins of one of the gangs in Baltimore, and it honestly changed my perspective on a lot of things as it comes to our inner city, because I grew up in Dublin. I'm from a very good community, and I'm lucky to be a part of it. And so I never saw this stuff, and I think a lot of people haven't seen this stuff. And it's honestly opened my eyes more. There's people my age, or like there's kids that are having to see things that no person should ever have to see and deal with, and you kind of understand why they're at a certain point of their life and why they feel so trapped. It's one of the most inspiring and eye-opening. I mean, I'd call it art, honestly.
So I can relate to the powerfulness of and the weight of those stories. But I have a question for you, kind of a social commentary question. My curious thing is, Kevin, how much of their position of where they're at is your fault?
Oh, it's none of my fault.
Are you sure? Because they're being told it's
100%.
all your fault. They're being told it's my fault. They're being told it's my parents' fault. Nobody in my family, we were hiding from Nazis. No one in my family ever owned a slave, and my parents are the first generation to live here. And I heard through the grapevine that kid's there being roped into a game because of you. Surely not the Democrats, but because of you.
Well, at that point, I'd just tell him to kiss my ass, because I'd be like, listen, dude, it happened in 1850. Yeah, stunk. Horrible. One of the biggest crime against humanity is slavery in America. But if you think I'm going to sit there and I'm going to apologize for something I had absolutely no part in,
And something that you never suffered for.
You're grabbing at nothing, because
Right.
at that point, what does it solve? And if anything, it's disrespect for the people that actually went through this. The same people that were getting whipped to death, the same people that are separate, that are having to choose between which kid they're going to take to the plantation and which one's going to go where. You know, parents separated. I mean, the crimes that these plantation owners, these slave owners, all of them, what they treated people is horrendous. It's horrific. It's disgusting. But you're trying to tell me that I need to apologize because of that, when you had no part of that, and you did not suffer from those horrible, horrible crimes. It's insensitive. It's disrespectful, more or less. That actually have suffered the horrible crimes of slavery, and honestly, it downplays it.
And Kevin, the only reason I made that point, I think you're 100% right, and you made a strong point to that. The only reason I even brought it up is the sad part is I have been exposed to enough of these people's stories and the fact of the matter that without seeing The Wire, I can relate to the depth of those stories. I still want to see it more now.
It's incredible.
I bet. But I think we're exposed to those things on a hyper level to kind of build a narrative that at the end of the day, I think those have a great effect. But I think behind the curtain, we're looking at the Grand Wizard in Oz. We're looking at him. But I think the real person behind the curtain, the real problem is a narrative telling people, even today I shared on my Instagram of Patrice O'Neill, who I think is one of the greatest intellects. He goes, you know why black people hate white people today and white people have animosity for it is because there's this new type of racism. Racism you can't prove. And so we're just grabbing at straws. And kind of you alluded to it of you may be affected and facing a true hurdle and oppression, but it is nowhere near to the degree that it was in the past. To compare it to the past and to pretend that it is the past is the disservice, as you said. But I think the real problem is, you have real gangs and systems of welfare and broken households pulling them back and keeping them there. But more strong, when you watch The Social Dilemma and you're exposed to the great weight and strength that internet and social media holds, at least today, I think a lot of it, Kevin, might have to do, and not the majority, but a lot has to do with this narrative that, yes, you in a suburb going with your dad with a dad and a mom, a nice household, and in the beautiful suburban house are still oppressed in some way. And we're going to find avenues for it. Even, Kat, I want to cut to the clip with Logan Paul, Logan Paul just wins a fight. It's bigger than the Mike Tyson
Jake
fight.
Paul.
Jake Paul. You even warned me ahead of time, and I still screwed it up. But Jake Paul, he wins the boxing match again, and it was bigger than the Mike Tyson match. And watch what these – look at the question he can't escape. Every show he's been on, he's been asked this.
Jake, considering where we are right now in our racial conversation in America, was what you did to Nate Robinson racist?
Nah, stop playing with me. Come on.
Listen, Jake, it's a sensitive time right now. We just had to witness a white man just knock a black man smooth out in front of all of America.
I mean, this is what we train for. You know, at the end of the day, boxing is a sport. And, you know, you train to win. Nate is the one who called me out.
Was it racist to knock a black man out? That is the question of the
No, stop asking me that. I said no.
It's not racist.
It's a shitty question. It's a sport.
Why?
How does this have anything to do with race?
Question. We got to wake you up. You got to be a part of this conversation.
That's right.
Look, because if you can go from
But you've got Jake Paul, right? You got Jake Paul out here, and he's being asked if it's racist that he won his competition. Would it have been racist had he lost? Because now but they're going, but you know, in today's climate, it's kind of racist that you knocked out a black guy. Wouldn't it have been more racist if I said I wouldn't have competed with a black guy? What am I missing here? It's like you can't win. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Well, I mean, the person who said it's Jamel Hill. Jamel Hill's a clown. She's a bozo. The reason why she got fired from ESPN is because she says stupid shit like this. Okay, you know what? She's made a career on of saying stupid shit and talking out her ass. Okay, you know, you think Donald gets in trouble with Twitter? She gets passed around like a 1980s Key Party. Okay. No one can keep her because she's such a liability. Because she's a bum. She's a loser. And she tries to she tries to race bait every single situation she can get her hands on. And it's despicable. There's a reason. She started as a sports reporter. And know what she's doing now?
What?
She's on The Ringer covering each episode of The Wire. Come full circle on that.
No way.
Okay? Dead ass.
See,
she's
what's funny is I didn't even know who this person was, and she ticked me off.
But the thing is that I think, like, as she says it, and she starts like laughing at the end because I think she's starting to. She realizes she's like, this is the dumbest thing, maybe dumbest question in human history. I mean, and she's like starting to laugh, and I don't know if she's joking. I hope to God she's joking, but she's not the person to joke about it because she's made a career off of being a race baiting piece of shit. And you know, Dave Chappelle should make this joke. To me, it's a joke. I have a hard time believing someone can actually sit there and
but it happened.
Ask that question seriously.
Someone asked that in this life. That's the craziest part. Is that happened?
And but I hate Jake Paul. Jake Paul's a horrible human being. And
he is.
The worst people in America have money, and it sucks. Like SoundCloud rappers, all of you suck. Okay, worst people on earth. Next to Jamel Hill, her and Nancy Pelosi. I can't say it on a public forum, but yeah, they're losers. But I think Jake Paul handled it fantastically. He's like, get that shit out of here. Like, what are you doing? Like, stop asking me that question. So, like, what are you thinking?
That's the truth. And it's the only way you can approach it. The unfortunate thing is I feel like, you know, today, even doing podcasts and stuff, we kind of have to tiptoe around delicate topics because we don't want to lose our career. We don't want to lose our livelihoods. And what stinks is we don't get to actually speak truth to power. These things are getting more powerful. They're getting stronger. They're getting more influential because people with logical minds like yourself or I have to put our tail between our legs and, you know, pretend otherwise. But kind of to pivot, because I think either you'll do a great job defending it and you could bring me back to the GOP side, or we could do some, I don't know, critical reflection against our boy Trump Daddy. But I've noticed, okay, so here's my point. it's crazy that we impeached the president and then spent an entire election process never bringing up that impeachment, and you didn't bring it up because it was a total, I don't want to use this word, so it was a total sham. It was just something made up, pulled out of the ethos, and had no legitimacy behind it, and that's why you never brought it up, because you knew you would lose. So we spent 4 years saying Russia stole our election. Then we cut to a clip. If you are just listening to the podcast, this part is only in Chinese, so it is requiring subtitles. So I apologize for that, but putting it in context, you will understand moving forward regardless.
1970年代开始，对美国它的内政外交有非常强的影响力啊，所以我们有路径依赖，是吧？但问题是，08年之后，华尔街的地位下降了，更重要的是，16年之后。 华尔街搞不定特朗普，为什么？很尴尬。特朗普以前对华尔街有过一次软性违约，所以双方有矛盾啊。当然，这个细节我就不多说了，时间可能已经来不及了，是吧？那么，这个中美贸易战过程中，他们也试图帮忙啊。据我所知，美方的朋友跟我讲，这个试图帮忙，但是啊，力有不逮啊。但现在呢，现在我们看到拜登上台了。 传统的精英，政治精英啊，这个建制派，他们跟华尔街的关系是非常密切的。所以大家看到吧，拜登的儿子被特朗普说你在全球有什么基金公司，发现没有？谁帮他建的基金公司啊？明白吗？这个都有买卖啊。那么。 所以这个时候啊，我们以恰当的方式进行一定的这样一个表达一个善意啊，我个人理解，当然这个受限于我的专业基础是吧？我们是从国际政治经济学的角度去理解这个事儿。那么我认为啊，有它的战术和政治的价值在里边。
Actually, I wanted to say.
There's a lot of garbage floating around the internet right now, a lot of fake things. That video is real. And those subtitles are accurate. We checked today with 2 different Chinese speakers and confirmed that. What he just said, what you just read on the screen, tells the story. This is as close to a smoking gun as we have ever seen. Quote, we have people at the top of America's core inner circle of power and influence.
In that clip, we have a Chinese professor, and this was struck, and I don't know if you saw this, Kevin, but we have this Chinese professor coming out and saying how they've struggled for the last 4 years, and it's because of the Trump administration, but they have high connections within Wall Street and within the inner circle of the American government, and they'll be getting back to normal with the Biden family. So that's petrifying and clear. But China didn't steal our election. Don't even talk about China. It is not the China virus. You're racist. But back to the fact at hand, or the point I'm trying to make here, is we spend 4 years saying Russia stole our election, and then we magically say our election system is flawless and it's bulletproof. So I will not deny that there's very legitimate fraud allegations and the reason to suspect foul play within our election, but nothing's been proven yet. And I think we kind of see it on the wall, but we can't do anything. We can't take steps forward until we have the smoking gun. And I think it seems like we might be on a path to finding it, but we don't have it yet. So, Kevin, the point I want to make is in regards to Trump, ever since the election, every day, he's had tweets like this where he said, I've won the election, where the election was rigged. And he's done this every day. And while I still think Trump is less dangerous than the most dangerous Democrats, I mean, they are just dangerous, he's still terrible in his own respect. And I think it is incredibly dangerous to be creating a second reality for Americans to be living in, that Trump won. You are one of the loudest voices, one of the most powerful people in the world. You cannot be saying every day, I won the election. The election's rigged. Like, dude, you have no legitimacy. You are building a delusion. And now we have humans read that. President, one of the richest men, one of the most powerful men said he won. I believe it. You don't think that has an effect? And that's what builds a civil war. It ain't black versus white anymore, baby. It's an ideological war. And it's being formed in front of our eyes. What are your thoughts on someone like Trump, who we supported because it's a lesser of two evils? At what point do we get to have the better of two bests? But that's beyond the point. And what are your thoughts on, even though we kind of thought he was the lesser of two evils, this is problematic and I see very dangerous. What are your thoughts?
Well, it is dangerous. And, I voted for Donald this year, not as a vote for Donald, but as a vote against what Kamala Harris stands for. I think Joe Biden's going to do fine. I do. I mean,
as long as he's alive.
Yeah, as long as he's breathing. But that's beside the point. It was a vote against, I think, what this agenda that Kamala is pushing, because she is inevitably going to be, she may step in. I do think Biden will complete 4 years, though.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome, dude.
But I think that it's dangerous for Donald to say what he is saying. He's calling the system that got himself elected fraudulent. Is there a bias against Donald in pretty much every single platform? Absolutely. There's no denying that. But at the end of the day, even if there were, these faulty systems, they would not have been nearly large enough of an impact to sway the result of the election. And I think he's doing a disservice to America. I think he's disrespecting
the people who voted for him.
He is. And I think he's disrespecting every president that came before him. And he's honestly just shitting on the office of president. Because you know what? You lost. Did I want you to win? I wanted you to win. But also I'm not a Republican. I don't identify with one party or the other.
I agree.
I am America first, 100%, and I believe in our Constitution, and I believe in everything it stands for. And I don't like that both parties they pick and choose when it comes to, when the Constitution applies to them, and that's not appropriate, because that's not what this country is about. It's kind of what the Electoral College you're saying. It's like our founding fathers knew this shit. They warned us against this stuff, and we're just picking and choosing what applies and what doesn't apply. And it's despicable that I voted for a guy that can't accept the results of a simple election. And I'm embarrassed by that. I think a lot of his supporters should be embarrassed by it. I think every American should be embarrassed by it, because it does nothing but hold us back. It does nothing.
I just want to make one point. I agree with you, and it is just the optics alone is the ugliest part of it all. But also, Kevin, in a world where there is wrongdoing, you do believe Joe Biden's going to live 4 years. I want to do on the Rethink Tank where we have a death poll and a death pool, and I truly don't think he will. Where we just do like Wheel of Fortune or what's that game that Bob Barker hosted, where we all just try to get the closest.
This is right.
Boom, the Price is Right.
Okay, can I interject real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Because you said he's going to die. This notion that he broke his ankle or foot by playing with his dog. I mean, have you ever seen anything cloaked in more shit in your life? This dude either was trying to get up his front doorstep and tripped, or he fell down the stairs, just like every other 78-year-old breaks their foot. Okay.
This man spoke to no one, interviewed by no one besides the Breakfast Club and Cardi B. All the months leading up to the election, while he hid in his basement. He ain't well. But real quick, let's cut to Joe Biden himself telling Kamala Harris and the public that that if he has a complete and strict moral disagreement with Kamala, he's going to do what he did that he told Obama he'd do, and he would just catch a disease and get too sick to be in office and step down.
When we disagree, it'll be just like so far. It's been just like when Barack and I did. It's in private. She'll say, "I think we should do A, B, C, or D," and I'll say, "I don't. I like A, don't like B and C," and it's go okay. But I told Barack, if I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement we have based on a moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign. We don't have that. We haven't, and we discussed at length our views on foreign policy, on domestic policy, on intelligence.
So this dude is alluding to some creepy stuff anyway, Kevin. But regardless, I want to get to the point of I agree with you to the respect of when we talk about Trump and where he did us and America disservice. I think it's his approach, man. I think we are slowly getting red-pilled. We don't get to go Russia hijacked us using Facebook, spend 4 years seeing Facebook and Google get stronger and acknowledge that they're pounding their chests like King Kong saying they're going to sway the election. Watch us, Trump daddy. And then we're surprised when there are third-party effects on our election. So I don't think we had a clean and do I can stand behind your point of, do I think the fraud, even if caught, is enough to overturn? Maybe not, but I think it's more so because we can't catch it all, more than it's not enough votes. So I think if I am a president and I'm a president for the people, not for my party, not for my family, and not for myself, I'm truly a leader for the people, I can't leave the office letting this go again, because it's cyclic. We are living generation after generation. Your grandpa's grandpa dies, hands the baton to your grandpa, who's going to pass it to your dad, and generation after generation, we're going to watch the government get stronger, us as the people get more limited, and we're going to go, look what's happening. And no change. We keep seeing it. We keep calling it out. We keep acknowledging it, but no change. So I do think a leader of the people needs to fight for us. Because this is bull. I'm tired of the lesser of two evils. I want the best of the bestesses. And so I agree with you in that his approach was the worst, but I don't think, if you are fighting for me, I don't think you roll over like a dead duck. I think you fight, you get your attorneys, you're rich as hell, man. You're a billionaire. Get your team of attorneys and fight them, but you can't be tweeting every day, creating an entire different reality that's going to prevent, cohesion amongst the people. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you this. I believe he did everything in his power to benefit America. I think he loves this country so much. And because he didn't have to run for president. Like, he had nothing, he had everything to lose. He had nothing to gain out of any of this, except he wanted America to be great again, and establish this American dream, reinstill that. But I think that where I have a hard time saying that he's fighting for us at this point is that.
Oh, he isn't. No, I agree.
No, I think he's fighting for him to win and for him to get that result, versus if he had any respect for the office, concede. I mean, he's already started the transition process, limited, kind of limited, but then continue your investigation. Investigate our electoral process, how we handle it, but don't say, I'm doing this for you guys, and you're still holding on to a pipe dream. Because at that point, you're only looking out for yourself and your own result. But hey, you're a lawyer, or Esquire. I don't know what you are.
Esquire.
You're the person who sits in the corner and types up or draws the pictures. That's what you are. Whatever that's the bailiff or
yeah.
But I mean, it's innocent until proven guilty. Okay, I'm not backing down on the same process that got 44 guys ahead of him elected. I'm not dismissing that. I mean, it's a core fundamental part of America and what it means to be an American. And he's just spitting on it. He's just, I mean, it's disrespectful and it's embarrassing to America. And It's just it's disappointing.
It is. I agree with you there. And at the end of the day, it was inevitable. We were being told this was going to happen. Now, do I think it's his fault that 20,000, 50,000 random votes are being dumped off in the middle of the night? The polling places are being held open later than normal. We have machines whose coding is clearly counting different. But again, like you said, this is the only system we got. I think directing our attention towards your tweets and away from the fact at hand that we got another election in 4 years, let's kind of patch the holes and prevent this from happening again. It's just a shame. And the sad part is we hear that this man's going to make Trump Network, a Trump TV or whatever, the Trump News Network, TNN, and he's not going to go away. He wants to run again in 4 years. It's like, no, dude, you're screwing us, because that means another Republican is going to try to run and you're going to take away from their votes. All this stuff, it's like, I think the best thing you can do for us now is to go away and we move forward. And hopefully, at the end of the day, I had a relief when Joe Biden won, because he was someone I would never vote for. I mean, with the Hunter Biden stuff, we didn't even get into that. But with the Hunter Biden stuff and everything, he's clearly a part of the Clinton elite ring. Yet China gave him – nobody knows he has his own Epstein private island. I'm not saying they're hooking up with kids there, but he has his own private island. You don't just come across – you're not just – you're a career politician. What about your career gets you an island sold to you from China? It's right outside the Chinese coast. But we're not even going to get into that. All I'm saying is, dude, you're right when you talk about Trump's policies. We had the Israeli intelligence kill that Iranian scientist. I don't know if you saw that. He's a nuclear scientist, huge scientist in Iran. And it came back that America kind of assisted the Israeli intelligence in assassinating this guy. And Iran came out and said, we want to fight back just like General Salami, but we're going to allow it to reside because we're going to get back into the Iran deal, the Iran nuclear deal, and we're going to have a free $50 million paycheck coming to us in a month. And then we're going back to the Paris Agreement, which I cannot go down that hole, dude. I'll go on. For my climate law class in law school, I had to do a project on it. It's so clear in the political conversation that not enough people read that thing. Because if you saw, it's a contract, folks. This isn't just like, let's all come to the climate change club. We all meet in France. And then we talk about how it's getting warm and and the polar bears are losing ice. No, it is America's going to foot the bill for every country that doesn't become carbon neutral by 2025. Folks, that's a lot. There's a lot of them. Saudi Arabia, their whole, I had to do my project in Saudi Arabia. Again, damn it, I got down this hole. But real quick, Saudi Arabia goes, we can't get there because we're an oil country. So we're going to try our best, and if we can't, the United States is going to foot the bill. Saudi Arabia is one of the richest Middle Eastern countries. They are the epicenter of the world economy, and they're going to go, we can't afford it. America's going to foot the bill. Excuse me, what? Why isn't Paris? Why isn't China? So, not to get down these rabbit holes, but the sad part is there was a sigh of relief when he got elected because I was never going to vote for him. But there's a sigh of relief of hopefully we can get past this and start coming together. But what the sad part is, man, it's way too strong of a political tool to turn us against each other. Again, when you watch the entire wire and then they log on to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and school, con law class, they go to school and school's telling them, no. It's not because your dad's in jail. It's not because you're doing crack. It's because of Kevin Truckley in Columbus, that stupid white faggot. They're blaming you, dude. That's the narrative, and that's freaking dangerous, man. That's the problem, is it's building a delusion. So when I sit here and self-criticize the president because he's building a double delusion, you got to understand that the system, this comes full circle to your point about the government at the beginning of the podcast. When you are looking to these people for guidance, help, assistance, and your reality, you start living in a delusional reality. And that's, again, just as bad as the Republican right, crazy side is. We've got a left, and it's going to be an ideological war, man. Do you have any wrapping up thoughts for this topic as we kind of finish up here?
I mean, it's just, I agree. I think that it is kind of a sigh of relief. I think Donald he kills me. He is so funny in everything he
He is so
says.
funny.
He kills me. But I think that, I mean, what he did in the Middle East, the peace agreements he did in the Middle East, the three Supreme Court justices, like those are long-lasting impacts of his presidency. But I think the thing that he accomplished that no one really hasn't really recognized yet is how we approach, our view of the elite or of our politicians or of our news organizations.
No, I completely
And
agree.
and it's important to ask questions. And a lot of times we never ask questions. We don't ask what's actually happening.
Or there's
What's
questions that we want
going
to
on.
ask, but we're afraid it's going to affect our career. Or really, that's it. Just our career. The corporate sector is our new government. But go ahead.
Yeah, but it's this sort of approach to politics that I think is his lasting impact and will forever be a part of politics now, is that we are going to have more outsiders, as we should. We should have the outsiders, because guess what? A lot of the outsiders, they're self-made. They're people that created their wealth themselves. They've created their careers themselves. They're not just, hey, I was, yacht buddies with, this guy's dad. Or, my dad knows this guy's mom. Or, my grandpa had this position. And that's how I mean, our current, our senators, representatives, all that. It's all connections, which I mean, who is the most important tool you have. But I think that it's great that he was president for 4 years. But I don't think as a country moving forward, we could have afforded to have him for another 4 years. I think Biden is the mistake it's not a mistake, but
is.
I think it's the result that we
Cost
needed.
a lot of money.
Well, that's a different topic for another day.
Yeah.
That's if Kamala gets in.
Right. Well, even dude, when you go the first day, we're going back to the Iran deal and the Paris Agreement.
You're a lunatic. You're crazy if you think that's going to happen the first day. And there ain't
Dude, you could do it with an executive order. And here's the other thing.
That's fine.
You think the buy-in back into the Paris Agreement is the same price it was to begin with? You're missing the game here, folks. But, Kevin, I think you raised the greatest point. I completely agree with you. The thing that I'm most afraid of is for 4 years, the media has turned into a monster they were never like before. And they've waged war against Trump. But what are they going to do when Trump isn't there anymore? And so the real question is, who's going to be the target? Because they've been making millions and creating an entire ideology and reality out of their narrative, and they've got nobody to attack. And what's sad is you're watching it. It's been happening for a long time. The transition is to your neighbor, and we're learning to hate each other. Dude, we're afraid to stand next to each other. Don't come over for Thanksgiving. Stay back 6 feet. So there's this weird socialization going on where we can't even stand. We don't trust our neighbors. And I'm just worried, and I hope it doesn't become the case. I'm worried that the enemy that they've built for 4 years will be gone. They are going to need a new enemy, and they're going to substitute it with PC bullshit. You and I are going to be the target. That thing dangling between your legs, your craving for a pretty woman, and the fact that your skin just doesn't have enough melatonin, that's the new war. And it's totally misdirected and ignorant, and people are being taught that it's not only the truth, but it's intellectual. You're superior. On Facebook, you're a superior being when that idiot doesn't know what you learned from, BuzzFeed. But Kevin, do you have any final
Can I say
thoughts?
something?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Well, I hope that we transition away from that. And it's not melatonin in your skin, by the way. It's melanin.
Melatonin is more fun.
Yeah, it's the thing. Yeah, it's the thing that you take to go to sleep. The thing is that I don't believe America is that they paint us as a racist country, and I guess I'm kind of blind to the fact because obviously I'm not black. Breaking. And I don't understand what it's like to be black in this country. And honestly, I don't think it's fair to people who are black in this country to be represented by white people, and tell people what's racist, what's not racist. You suffered this, you suffered that. That's not fair to them because they have.
Wait, but why do they get to do it? Dude, it comes back to you don't know my grandma's story. Why did they get the arbiters of truth in these lines as well? I think it's you either go all or nothing, man. These lines either exist or they don't, and you don't come together. If you go, I can have dreadlocks and you can't. I can say a word and you can't. Well, guess what? We're never going to come together and look at ourselves as the same and be a community.
But it's not just it's this way or that way. It's a tricky line. It's not a straight line. It has zigs, it has zags.
Where you go, no lines. Why do there need to be lines? Who's being damned by the dreadlocks? By a word? At the end of the day, those lines are keeping us considering each other the other. If tribes back in the day were the reason we were black and white and not red hair versus blonde is because geographically that's what the tribes created. You came to the other, and they were different based on their skin colors. And what did you do? You had no use for each other other than to conquer each other and use each other for your resources and your women. Sorry, guys, that's how rudimentary the world was back then. And unfortunately, it is skin tone. But the lines could have been hair color. The lines could have been height. And so all I'm saying is these are arbitrary lines. So to say, well, you have a better understanding of these lines than I do, I want to say there shouldn't be lines because they're arbitrary. They're non-existent. Once we just erase them, we recreate racism every day by saying these lines exist. And to say you could talk about the lines and I can't, no. Dude, yeah, no, sorry, go ahead.
No, okay, well, you could have said, oh, yeah, it could have been. But guess what? This is the reality, okay? It's unfortunate that people are judged based off the color of their skin, and it's not fair. It's not right. It's messed up. It's horrible.
But it's on both sides of the coin, man. Everybody.
I'm not, listen, hey, I'm not saying it's not.
Right.
But I'm saying that more black people have suffered more in this country than white people have in terms of, I mean, we'll get back to the slavery. Neither you nor I should ever have to apologize for slavery because we had no part of it. And I don't believe that, certain communities should be paid, what do they call it? Reparations. I think that's what they call it.
Reparations.
For that, because it's just like, that solves nothing. That doesn't fix what happened in the past. But what are we doing as a society to move forward and to help make sure that no person is left behind? America, like I said earlier, the greatest thing about America is you can get yourself out of a shitty situation, but you can't fault those who are born in a shitty situation. So again, it goes back to my point of what are we doing with our inner city kids, which is predominantly black. What are we doing to help those kids in those communities prosper and to get more of a level playing field, in more white communities. Dublin's a predominantly white community, but the people in Dublin shouldn't have to suffer. They shouldn't have to have lesser, but we have to do something to help, those who have been left behind. And back to what I was saying is that I'm not one to tell a black guy what's racist and what's not. And no white person should ever tell a black person what they should be offended by and what they should be offended by. And
listen, man,
it's both sides. It's both sides. They don't know what it's like to be a white person.
But also because you're uncomfortable and offended doesn't mean anything. It's one thing that I am oppressing you or I'm preventing you from getting a job or I've made your life hell. Yeah. But it's another thing that you're offended. Offended that is so subjective and untethered from my reality that I don't give it credence. But I think you did make the strongest point of the podcast. It is a double-sided coin. And while I will never tell you if your feelings are justified or not, and I'm never going to tell you how to feel, I think the other side of the coin, if that's the case, also has to be, in no way do you get to blame me for that other side of the coin, because I never had any effect on that. Neither did my lineage, my parents' parents, or their parents. So I agree with your point of, I'm not going to step on your toes and tell you how to feel, and I'm going to listen, but also I'm not taking blame for this. That, I think that's where I'll put
Okay. Yeah, and I'll try and wrap it up here. But and I think a lot of people that, we're starting to see, Jake from State Farm is black now. Like it's stuff like that we're just replacing like white people whenever that's not but to me it's using them more of, using them, that's a horrible way to put it. It's using, people of color who take tremendous pride in that, of their culture and where they come from. And, I feel that they're using them more as tokens to push a certain agenda. And to me, that's not okay. But everyone deserves a voice. Each community deserves a voice. And I think that that's the importance. And I think that's what we need to instill in this younger generation, is that your voice matters. Don't sit there and that's why I love that how many votes came in this year, is because people started to realize, like, your vote matters. That's the great part about this country. That's what makes this country so incredible, is that doesn't matter, if you're working at Popeyes, best chicken sandwich by far.
Chicken sandwich by far.
If you're in the back at a Popeyes, bread and chicken, or you're the CEO of a bank, your vote matters just as much as the next guy, and your voice matters just as much as the next guy. And I think that is what needs to be instilled in every community, especially needs to be driven home in these inner city communities, that you yourself can make a difference. If you are facing racism, guess what? Best part about America is you can lift yourself up. You guys can corral together. Everybody can corral and get behind you. And that's how you create change. That's how you spark change. And that's how you change an entire community, a country, a culture, whatever. It's a movement. And we need to push this importance of a voice, and each part of America needs to be represented with that voice. Because guess what? My voice in Dublin, it comes from a different point of view than what it does in downtown Columbus, or what it comes in Philadelphia. And once we start valuing that in our differences, instead of trying to shame people in our differences,
boom,
we need to own our differences. We need to encourage to own what makes you different. And this is going not necessarily down a rabbit hole. I'm going to wrap it up, promise. But, I personally, I know I'm a little different. I know I have different points of views, but guess what? I own it. Yeah. And I'm not ever going to shy away from my differences. I own it, because that's who I am. And I think everyone is so focused on doing what's popular instead of what's right. This is paraphrasing a Steve Jobs quote, my hero. Again, I know I'm weird, but like at whenever I was in the office, I had this picture of Steve Jobs, and I had the quote underneath, and it says, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back. You just have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future, and you have the trust, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, that approach won't let you down. Because if you follow your heart and intuition, they always truly know what they want to accomplish. And I think that if you have the mindset, if you have, the correct people around you, that you can accomplish anything. That's the greatest part about this damn country. And I think that isn't present as it should be, and how it's not spoken of in this country. Because we're focused on who do we blame next? Who's at fault for this? Who's holding us back here? It's easy to blame, but at the end of the day, who goes to bed at night? Who's the one who earns the paycheck? Who's the one that pays the rent? Who's the one that puts food on the table. It's you. It's not the government. It's no one else. It's not, it's not you. You don't affect my life. I affect what I hold for myself. And I think that's what America needs to do. We need to look ourselves in the mirror and be like, we live in the greatest country on this planet. And if we can't encourage others in this country, doesn't matter what you look like, black, white, Asian, trans, gay, straight, Mexican, immigrant, I don't know, whatever, even those Canadians, God help them, especially the French Canadians. Don't get me started. Okay. Don't get me started. That's a different conversation, but we need to encourage others. And I'm tired of seeing everyone blame and point fingers. There's no encouraging. If we can't encourage people, then there's going to be nothing but blaming others. So,
oh yeah,
I said I was going to wrap it up, but that went on for like 10 minutes. So I'm sorry.
No, dude, that was great. And honestly, this is a fun, deep episode. Kevin, I can't thank you enough for coming on. We're going to definitely do this again. Guys, I appreciate it. Kevin, as we mentioned, guys, please go and become a member of the NeuroGym for free. This new social media alternative, kind of like Reddit. I need more voices to help make it fun. So go and make a profile. It'll be a lot of fun. Guys, you'll help this. Yes, you could buy some dank merch like how Dr. Fauci's how the Rona stole Christmas. That's some badass merch. But the most important thing you could do is share this video. Please share this video. Show it to your friends. I'm going to be making clips. Follow us on Instagram because Kevin is the funniest person on Thursdays. Thursday, we do question, and if you answer the question, you get thrown into a raffle for a free gift card every Thursday. Free gift card, and Kevin comes up with the best answers, without a doubt. That's what made me so excited to come on. So, Kevin, dude, thank you so much for coming on. Do you have anything you want to plug? Your social media or anything?
No, just whatever comment makes you laugh on Thursday, you know who it is. And trust me, if you give a bad answer, best believe he's getting a comment saying that sucked. So, yeah. Also, go Bucks.
That's it. Go Bucks. We know who's dominating. I'm sure you guys are getting ready for the big game as you listen to this. So, again, share, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. Kevin, dude, thank you so much. Have a good night. Guys, catch you next time. Peace.